I'm going to record it. All right, everyone, welcome to the third Facilitation Masterclass on the 5 pillars of transformational facilitation. What does that mean? That's a lot of words. We're going to talk about what that means, why it's important, why it matters to you in the work that you do in the world. And we are going to use the chat box a lot because if we were in a room together, I would be asking you lots of questions. You would be responding. It would be super fun. And we're going to do our best with the virtual technology that we have for me to hear what's up and hear what you're up to. So the first question that I asked, if you haven't posted, I was just curious. This is the third masterclass, so I'm curious if this is your first, second, or third masterclass for you joining us today. And you can let me know where you're calling in from, because it's always fun to see the reach that virtual trainings can have. I've said this before in my facilitation masterclasses is, I'm going to teach a lot of concepts, and I also invite you to pay attention to the nuances, right? So I think a lot of facilitation is what we do, but it's also how we do it. So how I'm facilitating, how I'm moving you and guiding you through this experience, like take notes on whatever it is that is connecting with you and the material that I share today. There's gonna be time and space at the end for Q&A. And a special bonus, as always, for those of you who are on this call live, as I've been really leaning into teaching leaders and coaches and facilitators how to elevate, enhance, and up-level their facilitation, I'm really committed to finding ways to support people both one-on-one and in retreats. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how we can essentially continue this conversation after this class. Facilitation there's a lot to it, I think, right? It's an art, it's a science, it's a skill, and there's a lot of nuances to it, right? And so I'm imagining that we can all agree that I'm going to do my best to share with you all, like to give you everything that I have, given the time frame that we have, knowing that there is a lot more that we're not going to be able to cover in just our short time that we have today. So with that, I love that we have some people that are here. This is their third facilitation masterclass. We got people that this is their first time here. So welcome to all of those who are new to the crew, and welcome back to those who are like continuing on your facilitation journey. Honored to have you here. I don't take it lightly that you have chosen to take your time, love, attention, energy, and give this to yourself. I mean, this is really like, I consider myself to be such a lifelong learner, and I'm constantly trying to find spaces and places where I can elevate and improve and enhance the work that I do in the world. And I love working with people who are also passionate about that as well. So with that, we are going to get this party started, and I'm going to do a screen share. And like I said, I made a PowerPoint for y'all because I love you that much, even though I don't necessarily do PowerPoints. We're going to see how this goes because I have some questions on the PowerPoints. We're going to use the chat box, and we're gonna give it a go because part of facilitation is just giving it a go, right? So that's what we're going to do. Love it. Okay, share screen. Here we go. All right, Facilitation Masterclass, the 5 pillars of transformational facilitation. This is good because I can see most of your faces, or some of your faces, but what's not good about this is that I can't see the chat box. And if you are not muted, okay, I'm gonna mute you, Emma, welcome to the call. You know what I'm gonna do? I think I'm gonna try something. And Jan, if you have any hot tips on this, let me know. I'm just trying to figure out how to do the chat. You can exit full screen. Okay. So I can do a share, but not full screen. Okay, let's try that. Thank you for your patience here with this, y'all. I haven't done the Zoom. Okay, so the chat can be right here because I like to see the chat. Exit full screen on Zoom. Okay, I'm not in full screen right now. Well, let's see if I don't want to see the presenter notes. View slide only, and y'all can see this. Dun, dun, dun. Hide presenter notes. Okay. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this, and we're going to see how that goes. Great. Thank you. Okay. 5 pillars of transformational facilitation. Let's see if I can just go to the next slide here. Will it let me? Oh, come on. Maybe not. View. Let's see this. All right. I'm just going to do that. All right. So can I get a thumbs up that you can see what I see? Like you can see the PowerPoint. Okay, great. So I would love, this is we already had our unofficial start question, which was, what number of facilitation class is this? The second question that I'm curious about this group of amazing humans is what types of events, workshops, and trainings and experiences do you facilitate? So you can go head over to the chat box and just type in, what types of events are you leading, currently facilitating, and or want to facilitate if you are in the place right now where you're just stepping into your facilitation journey. So I'm just curious, what types of events, who do you lead them for? Are they for college students? Are they, like, Jan, you lead vulnerability connection workshops or whatever. I don't know what you would call them, but I'm curious, what do you, this is such an interesting facilitation question. It's like, what do you call what you do in a way? Like, what types of experiences do you facilitate, curate, and create for people? Team meetings, team strategy meetings, we got workshops, speaking, trainings for change makers. Awesome. Denise leads retreats for folks to take action, vision board workshops, play-based workshops and trainings. One of the reasons why, personally, I just wanted to see what y'all are up to, but I also think as facilitators, it's fascinating to hear what other people are doing and to not feel alone, because sometimes I think there's a lot of coaching training out there, there's a lot of speaking training out there, or leadership training, but this realm of facilitation, I think, is pretty nuanced. And I think that it's just awesome to hear what types of events and workshops and trainings people are up to and what they're leading. So Mary's hosting career-focused networking events, classes for women. We got design thinking in the house, empowering people who feel isolated to create deeper connections. And anything from, and Jill does accounting and business management, right? We're like across the board. And so I just think it's so awesome that I think facilitation really has a huge wide range of what types of people are facilitators and what types of things we facilitate. And before we dive into the meat of our content today, I always like to make sure that we set our community agreements. We're all on the same page. The first one is to be open. Second one is to be present. And the third one is to be engaged. So the being open is just showing up today with an open heart and open mind to learn something new. Being present, I know that your time and energy and attention is very limited, so my invitation for you is to be here fully and to let go of whatever else your to-do list for the next 50 minutes or so that we have together, and to be engaged, right? We're going to use the chat box. I'm going to ask questions, and to make this as engaging and playful and fun and interactive as a virtual facilitation training possibly can be. So with that, I know that I can't see you all, but can I get like a thumbs up that you're on board for community agreements? We're all going to be open, be present, be engaged. Those are my top 3 that I always like to share. Super simple, super basic, but it's awesome to just make sure that we're all showing up with the same intentions here moving forward. So given the work that you do in the world, I am curious, what inspired you to be here today? For those of you that this is your 3rd masterclass, what was intriguing or exciting? And you can use the chat box to type in your answers to this question. So what inspired you to show up today? What inspired you to take an hour of your time to learn about the 5 pillars of transformational facilitation? Were you curious what they are? Essentially, like what drew you here today? And is there anything in particular you're hoping to get out of today, or anything in particular that you want to walk away with from our training today? So Luis wants to improve as a facilitator, learn best practices. Awesome. I love it. Feel like I know my material so well and don't facilitate it the best. Yeah, like I think that a lot of people who lead trainings or meetings or workshops, they put a lot of emphasis on the content that they're facilitating, but not on the context, meaning the how that information is being translated and transferred. Love it. Improve facilitation skills. Always looking to up level. I'm like, y'all, these are more people. Facilitation framework, right? So it's like facilitation is this big amorphous thing. Having some sort of structure and framework can be super, super helpful. I always learn something from your master classes, practical skills, foundational knowledge and ideas. Facilitation tune-up. Completed hundreds of hours of training of trainers and need to refresh and reboot. Mary says, because you're awesome. Boo! I love it. And because you want to be amazing. Sharpen the saw, sharpen your skills. Look for ways to be a better host, catalyst. I love that. And, I think that that's one of the important pieces as a facilitator is what is inspiring people to come to your events, your trainings, your workshops. I'm imagining some of your trainings, maybe people are required to be there, and some are choosing to be there. But I think knowing why your people are there, like knowing who's in the room, is so important as you begin to put together your programs, your outline, your whatever it is that you want to deliver. Why are they here? And what are they hoping to get out of the experience? So that way, part of this is a little bit of backwards by design thinking. It's like, if I know where I want to get my people, my audience, my community, then I can make a plan on how to get there, right? And so part of that is what's inspiring them to be there and what's drawing them to show up, and then curating and being the guide. It's like knowing where the top of the mountain is. If you don't know where you're going, it's going to be really hard to get there. And so my hope is that as a facilitator, you know where you're going and that you're the facilitator, you're the guide on that journey. Like I love metaphors. I like the mountains. I like the outdoors, for those of you who don't know me. So I always love asking that question. I think it's a great opening question. Turn to a partner, share what inspired you to be here today, get a few people to share. If you have a small group, you can go around a circle. I think it's a super powerful question, gets people in the room, gets people in the space, and gets people connected to their why. Why are you spending your time and energy and attention on learning this thing that we're here to learn? All right, so now that we know why we're here, to up-level or sharpen our skills, to like rock out facilitation like a boss, let's dive in. Let's see. Oh yeah, so here's the goal for today. Because goals are good, word on the street. Let me make sure y'all can, I need to spread this out so you can see that. Goal for today. And if you can't see stuff, just let me know. I'm trying to like move things around so I can see people, and I can see the chat, I can see everything. So the goal for today is to give you a framework for what transformational facilitation is, and a model for how to create and facilitate powerful experiences for others. So that's just that's like our top of the mountain for today. So here we go, let's dive in. What is transformational facilitation? I know that this slide has a lot of information on it, so try not to get overwhelmed. When I had it in like the keynote version, it had like point by point by point, but here we go. So I was looking up these words, right? To transform means essentially to change in composition or structure. Facilitate means essentially to make easier or less difficult, to help forward an action, a process, etc. So I was thinking about, well, what is transformational facilitation specifically? And I really like this idea that transformational facilitation is really the art, and I would say, and heart, I would add that, of creating powerful, engaging, and meaningful experiences that actually change people's lives. I know that I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again. I believe that we live in a world that is inundated. We are constantly being inundated with tons of information, tons of input. The majority of people who go to events, even like Tony Robbins events and these motivational speakers, and they go to workshops, that you go to conferences, events, trainings, workshops, retreats, you name it, only like it's like only 1% of that audience is actually going to do anything when they leave that experience, typically. So this is typically in the world of events and workshops. I think a lot of people go with the intention of their lives being transformed or changed in some way. And some of that is on the facilitator, and some of that is like on the person to actually integrate and apply and make those changes in their lives when they leave. And I also think, how as facilitators, can we set people up for success to be able to do that? How do we create an environment where people are reflecting and integrating throughout the whole experience, so when they leave, they're more likely to apply and to integrate whatever it is that they're learning or whatever it is that they've learned at that training, workshop, or retreat or event. So essentially I was like, how do I make this simple? Our goal is to make it easier for people to change, grow, evolve, and expand. To facilitate is to make easy. And it was really neat to hear from my friend Michael the other day. He did a workshop at a space called the Weller Society for Creative Entrepreneurs. And he came to my Facilitate Like a Boss day-long training that I did, and he did an exercise with them where it created an opportunity for people to be engaged in their experience rather than just have more information. And what he reflected back to me was it was way easier on him. And so to facilitate, it was easier on him because he took a lot of pressure away of having to deliver tons of input and information. And what he did was he facilitated an experience for them that's going to be way more impactful, way more memorable. And he said it was way more fun for him at the end of the day. And so I think the idea of facilitation is making it easier for your people to change and grow, but also easier on you. When you invite people to engage and connect with whatever material that you're creating, that you're sharing, they're much more likely to apply it into their life. And it's like, how can I make this more fun for me and for everyone else? So with that, like, kind of overview of what transformational facilitation is, my hope is to just, get a little bit on the same page of like, what does that mean? Because that's a pretty big, two big words put together. And based on the work that you do in the world, like you said before, the types of events that you lead, and the description that I just gave you for what transformational facilitation is, I am curious to know what, the thing just moved. Why, here's the question. Why does this matter to you? Why does this matter to you? And so you can just write in the chat box. I'm just moving things around here to see everything that I need to see. My screen is only so big. So why does transformational facilitation matter to you? Why is it important to you, to your clients, to your community, to the people that you serve? Feel free to share your answers in the chat box. And then we're going to dive into we're going to keep diving in. Anyone? Does this matter? Is it unclear? Or I'm open to people's like questions about that definition. Denise says it matters because I want to help people take action and be better, right? I've noticed the impact it's had on me from other facilitators, good and bad, and want to offer my best. Great facilitation leads to great learning. I love that. To make your trainings worthwhile, create lasting impacts. Boom. I love it. I love it. In my opinion, it's the whole point of facilitating. If nothing changes after it for the participants, then what is the point? I don't just want to feel, for events to feel like a class. I'm guessing that's what you meant to say. Yeah, I got you. Yeah, a bad class, right? To create engagement throughout the whole day. After doing a workshop last night and hearing you speak, I'm realizing it's to make me like it more and do it more so I could reach more people. I'm curious about, well, Mary, we can talk more about your workshop and how it went and talk about that. But otherwise, they check out and they're missing great info. Yeah. So, I mean, people are constantly distracted by these things, right? Like people got things buzzing. And if we're just delivering information, our attention spans are getting smaller and smaller by the minute. And so part of this is, like all y'all said, creating engagement, creating meaningful, powerful, dynamic experiences. I'm reading a book right now. It's called The Power of Moments. And the idea behind this book is that we as facilitators, I mean, it's not for specifically facilitators, it's for people, I mean, it's for anyone really, but it's like, how do we create peak moments and peak experiences in our lives? Because those are the things that change us. Those are the things that we remember. And so as I've been reading this book, I'm reflecting on how am I creating a peak moment or a peak experience for someone. Most people like to say that I just like to take people in the woods and make them cry, which is like a terrible, terrible thing. But on the other hand, it's like kind of true, because most workshops that I lead, there's tears, there's laughter, there's joy, there's play, there's fun, there's emotion involved. And I think that it is in our ability to like truly be, you know, to feel all of the feels that create those peak moments. But there are things that you all can do as facilitators to create that type of peak moment, that elevated experience for folks. And so before I dive into the pillars, for those of you who don't know, I'm just going to do like a super duper quick who am I in the world and why do I care so much about this stuff? So my name is Marli Williams. I should have done this probably at the beginning now that I say this out loud, because I'm like half an hour in or whatever already. But I have over 15 years of experience as a facilitator, educator, mentor, coach, and wilderness guide. So my bachelor's degree, my undergrad degree is in outdoor education. So pretty much I got a degree in being a camp counselor. And my master's degree is in adult education, which is really like the science and the art of like, how do adults learn? How do we learn throughout the course of our lives? Not just between the ages of like, 0 to 18, but after 18, the way in which we want to learn changes a little bit. And so I have a degree in program design and development. And I think that, like Louise said, I think the idea of education and facilitation is to create moments of transformation. And if we're not wanting to do that, it's like, well, what's the point? It's like, we don't just need more information. We need moments and experiences that really evolve, expand, and change us from the inside out. So that's just a little bit of my background, who I am. And I believe that the world needs more transformational facilitators and less sage on the stagers, people that are just giving you more information. And so that's why I'm super stoked to share these pillars with you, this framework with you, to really help you enhance and elevate the work that you do in the world, because I believe in you and I believe in your message and I believe that this matters. And without further ado, there's been a lot of build-up. Let's dive into the 5 pillars. I will say that I'm going to go through these fairly quickly, and that the next 5 masterclasses, I'm going to dive in deeper for each of the pillars. All right. So today is the framework. Today is the overview. And then I'm going to dive in like to the how and the what and all the things for the next master classes coming up. All righty, here we go. Pillar number 1. This is where your notebooks can get taken out. Maybe you're already taking notes. That's pretty cool. So pillar number 1, creating and holding a brave space for transformation. What does that mean? A lot of people out there in the world, they're talking about creating a safe space. And I'm not saying that that's wrong or bad, but I think a lot about what is the difference between a safe space and a brave space. And a lot of people, when they hear the word safe, they associate safety with feeling comfortable. The thing with transformation is that it's oftentimes an uncomfortable process that people are going through. And so as a facilitator, how am I holding a space for people to be able to go there and to say, like, it's okay that you might not feel, quote unquote, safe, meaning this might not feel comfortable for you, but how can I invite people and encourage people to lean in those moments where we're talking about, Brene Brown's book, Braving the Wilderness. And Braving the Wilderness is really about leaning into our vulnerability and our authenticity and sharing our truth. And sharing our truth and being vulnerable doesn't always feel safe. It doesn't always feel comfortable. And so how, as facilitators, are we creating the container and holding the space for people to be brave and for people to practice being really vulnerable with each other by modeling the way? And so one of the things that I did at the beginning, I know that I did it pretty quickly because of our limited time that we have today, but I set community agreements, right? And so I said, here are the expectations for our time together. If you're with people for a longer period of time, there's a lot of different ways to do this. And so this is actually what the next masterclass is about. What are some ways in which you've seen this done really well, and some ways that you haven't, essentially. There are spaces that I walk into where I feel like, the goal with this is people walk into your meetings, your events, your experiences, and feel like they can be all of themselves, right? And I think that is what people are hungry to go deep. People are hungry to be real, but they also need to have permission that they can go there and it's going to be okay. And how can I invite people to practice being brave? Which, again, it's just addressing that it might not feel warm and fuzzy. It might feel really scary. It might feel really uncomfortable. But to invite people to really lean into that. And I've said this, I know that I've said this before, but this really begins the moment when people walk in the door. I think that we forget, if people are coming in and we're overdoing something else and people walk in and I think it's recognizing that it takes a lot of energy for people to show up, to get into their car, to whether they had to find a babysitter, they had to do something to be able to show up. And so how are we creating a really warm, welcoming environment for people that they feel really seen right out the gate, right away? This isn't easy when you have a room full of 1,000 people, but if you're doing a workshop for 10 people, you can welcome every single person as they walk in the door. You can create opportunities for engagement right away. And so that is one of the pillars of transformational facilitation, and what I see, people that take the time to create and hold that space. Holding that space means I can create community agreements on the front end, but if the group isn't living up to that, how am I empowering the group and myself to hold other people accountable for that? If people, I think that this is true in a lot of work where people are sharing different perspectives or different opinions. How can we have that be okay? Versus we're not all here to think the same, but this is a brave space for people to maybe agree or not agree, and that we can go there. But you as a facilitator, this is part of, if there's a really dominant personality or a dominant voice in the room, and people start to not feel safe if that's not being facilitated, if that's not being managed well in some way. So that is pillar number 1. Like I said, I'm going to go through these pretty quickly, and also pay attention to the ones that you feel like you do really well, and maybe other ones that you would like to work on, because I'm going to ask you questions about that. All right, we are going to move right along to pillar number 2. Let's see if I can do this. Here we go. Facilitating a strong sense of belonging and connection. One of the things that I said to my coach the other day was I just got back from a week-long retreat. And at this retreat, there was a lot of content, there was a lot of information, but there was like so much space for community, for connection, for sharing meals together, for hot tub time machine time. Like there was a lot of space for people to really to connect. And I think that in the realm of transformational facilitation, and especially when people are showing up in person to a workshop, is that oftentimes when I go to events or experiences, it's one part what I'm going to learn there, but the other part is like who's going to be in the room. Like Betsy, I know you go to the high performance things, like I'm sure you learn a ton, but the people that you meet there are epic, and partners and collaborators, and and so I think that we do our communities, our audience, our participants a disservice. I mean, this is what Jan is all about. How do I help people connect? And Jan has these amazing things. Feel free to put the link in the comments if you want to. Vulnerability, vulnerability cards. I'm not calling them deep questions. Ask deep questions. So I think that there's a missed opportunity when we don't take into account how powerful it is. How I would call what Jan has, it's like the power of a prompt. So when people are hungry to connect with each other, but we just need to give them permission to do that. We need to give them a reason why, a reason to connect. So Jan has created these cards with questions on them that you can pass around at different points when people walk in the door, or, throughout the experience. But I think that everyone is looking for something to believe in and to belong to. In this world I think that we live in a world that is, we have the illusion of connection with technology, but we actually don't have deep connection with people. And when people are in person, I think that like the workshops and events that I've been leading recently, one of the biggest things that people get out of it is when they meet up for coffee or they go for a walk afterwards, and they maintain and sustain the relationships beyond. I think sometimes that can be as powerful, just as powerful, or even more powerful than like what they actually learned, is the people that they got to meet through that experience. And so again, that I'm going to do a whole masterclass on this around what are some tools, techniques, and tips on how to facilitate that strong sense of connection and belonging. I think asking some of those questions, like I was saying, what inspired you to be here? And turning to a neighbor and just having them share, I think that helps people feel not alone. It's like there are other people that share what I share, or there are other people that are interested in facilitation, right? Like, but how do I facilitate that strong sense of connection and belonging? I think that is key. Pillar number 2. So that you have people really being like, this is my place and these are my people, because I think part of what your events are all about is I want people to keep coming back and creating a community and a group of people that really believe in what you have to share and want to stay connected to you and to each other in a super powerful way. All right, I'm going to move us along here. And if you have any questions, feel free to type them in the box. And like I said, I'll do a Q&A at the end as well. Pillar number 3, presence over perfection. I think that this is one of the things that I think I've worked a lot on, is because I would call myself a recovering perfectionist. And I want like the workshops that I lead to be like the most amazing, the most powerful, the most inspirational, the most moving. And I think when I put all of that pressure on myself, it can be really hard to just show up and be with people, to really be present. There's a quote that I love. As you can tell, I love quotes. This is one of the Stoic quotes that I have that says, "You are way more than enough," just as a little reminder for you. But it says, "Attention is the rarest and greatest form of generosity." And I really love that. And so for me as a facilitator, thinking about, am I caught up in myself, or am I committed, and like in looking good and having to get it right? Or am I more committed to being of service, to being really present, to being really connected, to being really engaged? And I think that this definitely takes time. This takes practice, but I think it's just such an important cornerstone of, facilitators that have been the most impactful for me in my life are the people that were the most present. So this means sometimes letting go of the agenda, and sometimes it means coming back to the agenda, right? And so I think about this a lot, I wrote this down today, where I wrote, intention is greater than the agenda. So it's like, if I get lost, if I get confused, if I get off track, it's like, why am I here? And what is this really about? And if this is really about people connecting with each other, let's make sure that there's opportunities for people to connect. Like, what is this really about? And how do I just show up? And I think that as my work is just like a way for me to love people, and so how do I be present? How do I be engaged with them throughout the entire experience? Because if I'm not present, like if I'm checked out or I'm tuned out, it's most likely that they are too. I'm going to see what else I have here. I wrote down 3 C's that you can add to your notes if you like, around the idea of presence. And one is confidence, right? Like, confidence is sexy. Let's be real. So confidence is really about believing in who you are and what you have to offer. And that is why I put this quote here, that you are way more than enough. The awesome thing about facilitation is that you're a guide on the journey, right? You don't have to be an expert in anything, although many of you are. You only have to be a few steps ahead, but you have to believe with all of your heart. This is the conviction part. In what you have to offer. So confidence is believing in who you are and what you have to offer. Conviction is believing in what you're saying, right? I think that people again, they want something to believe in and to belong to. And if you are showing up in this I don't know kind of energy, it's going to be really hard to hold and create that space. At the beginning, it's going to be hard for people to really connect with each other. It's like you have to show up. And and it's also like being kind to yourself. You don't have to be perfect, but these are things to keep in mind of, how do I believe in myself more and what I have to offer, believe in what I have to say. And then the third C here, so it's confidence, conviction, and connection. The connection piece to me is really, so it was like believing myself, believing what I'm saying, but then the connection part is believing in other people. Right? Like, as a facilitator, I have to believe, I'm trying to figure out how to say this, but believing in people that they will get, I always say, I hope that you get something that you thought you needed, and I hope you get something that you didn't even know that you needed. Right? And believing that people are there for a reason, and that you have something to offer, they have something to offer, and that it's important that every single one of you is here. Every single person that shows up to your events matters. So just showing up and really connecting with each individual person as much as possible. If you speak to really large groups of people, I heard this before that I really liked. It's like, you're not speaking to a group of people, meaning like just you're clumping them all together, but you're speaking to a group of individuals. And I liked that distinction because I think that people want to feel heard, they want to feel seen, they want to feel loved, validated, matter, that they appreciate it. And so I think when you can connect to people on that individual level, it's really, really powerful. Bum, 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 bum. Okay, next pillar is facilitating reflection and engagement activities. So as you can see here, I was leading some sort of like, what are those, conga lines or something like that? But I think that people, again, in this, like moving from the world of information to facilitation, which I think is the world of like integration and application and engagement. My background is in experiential education. Part of experiential education is doing things like having an experience and then having opportunities to reflect on that experience so that you can actually integrate and apply, right? Yes, play. Play is so important, Luis, for sure. And so giving people opportunities to have fun and to play and to connect with each other, to reflect on their experience throughout. And that's why I love like the question cards or partner shares, like turn to a neighbor and share what you've learned so far, or write down what's your biggest takeaway. So there's like reflection opportunities where you can give people, and again, this is going to be a master class, but things like journal prompts, pair shares, and then engagement activities. I mean, there's, that's why I'm doing a whole class on this, because there's a lot to be said for, you know, what are the types of activities that work well for your group based on your goals. But even thinking about how do I get people engaged in the experience more is oftentimes like through the power of questions and the power of prompts and the power of play. So getting people to get into groups, and like here we are, I was like leading like 150 people in a play note instead of a keynote. And so a lot of it was like running around and having them connect with each other. And so I'm going to break down what those things are. But I think as far as transformational facilitation goes, what's missing in a lot of facilitation is giving people the opportunity within the context of your workshops, opportunities to reflect on what they've learned and opportunities to connect and engage with each other throughout, so that you can sustain the energy, you can sustain their attention, and to create those peak moments where oftentimes when people are connecting with each other or dancing in this thing, like that's the thing that people are going to remember. That feeling that you elicit. I mean, look at the smiles on these beautiful people's faces, right? Like everyone's like having a good time and feeling really engaged, feeling like they're a part of the experience and not just being given information. Again, this is just like the overview of the framework, and I feel bad because I'm like, I want to give you all the things, but that's why I'm doing master classes on each one of these things. And then there is one more here, which is creating opportunities for integration and application. This is the now what part, right? So a lot of things you like go, you learn stuff, and there's no opportunity, again, within the context. I think that sometimes we assume that if someone came to a workshop or an event, that they're automatically going to go into their life and integrate it. And that's not necessarily true. And I think that giving people an opportunity to say, like, based on what you've learned today, how do you want your life to be different? Or how do you see what you've learned today applying to the rest of your life? And so again, there's a lot of things that you can do to create those moments before people leave in order for them to actually apply the learning and to stay connected to each other. And so really weaving in the power of support and ongoing support and accountability in how people are integrating and applying this into their life. Let's see. So yeah, this piece is really, how do you move and inspire people to take action? So the question here would be, what do you want people walking away thinking, doing, knowing, feeling? Like, what do you want them to do differently now that they have had this experience? That's really like the essential question here. So what I am curious about, now that I have gone through the framework, I'm going to show you, so here are the 5 pillars, right? We have the creating and holding a brave space for transformation, facilitating a strong sense of belonging and connection, practicing presence over perfection, facilitating reflection and engagement activities throughout the whole experience, and then creating opportunities for integration and application. If you were to like go through these 5 pillars and just take a moment, and you can write this on your journal or on a piece of paper or something, I'm going to invite you to rate yourself like on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being like, I don't do this at all, and 5 being like, I'm a rock star at doing this. I'm just going to have you rate yourself, and you don't have to put this in the chat box right now, but just rate yourself in these 5 areas on a scale of 1 to 5. What are the things that you do really well, and or like, you know, if you do it really well, put a 5, and if you don't do it at all and have opportunity for growth, you can put a 1, and anything in between. And this is just an opportunity for some self-reflection. Self-reflection is good. See, this is the me facilitating reflection activity time. 5 pillars, y'all. What's up? In action. I want to see who else is here because I haven't. Dun, 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 dun. Cool. So if you are willing to be vulnerageous enough, again, I would love to. I wonder how we can do this. I'm curious what the thing that you feel that your biggest opportunity for growth or your biggest area of improvement, and you can just list the number. So first we're going to do the thing that you can, so I'm going to type this in. Thing that you can improve the most on. Which pillar do you want to work on the most? So we'll do that, and then I'm gonna have people list which one that they are like feel like they're a rock star in. So you can just put the actual number of the pillar, of like, what do you think that you want to work on the most? So your biggest area of improvement. And you can type it in the box, or you can just keep it to yourself. Totally up to you. So things that you want to improve. And then the second one will be, what are you awesome at? So which number pillar do you feel the most confident in? So you can, yeah, and you can do improve like this, you know, I want to improve, like let's say this, and then I'm awesome at this one or something. So people are awesome at facilitating reflection. Awesome, was confident, presence over perfection for sure. Angie, yeah. I love it. Cool. So feel free to type those in like the improve awesome format. And I always like to ask this question as well, and this creates an opportunity for integration and application, which is, what is your 1 degree shift going to be? I know that for those of you who've been on these before, you know what the 1 degree shift metaphor is. I'm going to explain it real quick, but the idea is, you know, as a facilitator, there's a lot of things that you're working on that you're trying to do. But given this framework and given these pillars and the thing that you want to make improvements on, what is a 1 degree shift that you would want to make in your facilitation? The idea of a 1 degree shift is that if you change the course on a sailboat just 1 degree, over the course of hundreds of thousands of miles, you can end up in a completely different place, right? And so as you think about your workshops, your programs, your retreats, your trainings, anything that you're creating, what's one small change that you could make that you think would make the biggest difference? So what is one small change that you think that you could make in your facilitation work that would make the biggest difference for you, for your people, for your participants? I would love for you to type that in if you're willing to, but this is an opportunity this is the now what question of like, okay, you have this framework. How do you want to apply it in your work, in your world, in your life? What does that look like for you? So feel free to share what your 1 degree shift is going to be over in the chat box over there. I like that question to ask participants at the end as well. Oh yeah, it's a great question. What's the 1 degree shift? It's my jam. I love it. Start catching myself when I panic if things aren't going as I planned, and remind myself to stay fully present. I love it. My 1 degree, Erin says to be sure to make a connection with each participant when they come in, when the number of participants is manageable. Yeah, I love that. I love just like, as a facilitator, I think I did a pep talk on this one time, but I called it like how to be the host of your life, right? It's like you're hosting a workshop, and if you were being like the hosting a dinner party, people wouldn't just like walk in your door. You'd welcome them, you'd give them a hug, you'd like tell them where to put their stuff, you'd take their coat, you know? And I think that if we showed up more as hosts as in our facilitation roles, we would create that presence and connection for people. I love that question for my business coaching clients. My 1 degree shift will be work on placing presence over perfection, reminding them that being brave is uncomfortable, and that's where the magic happens. So true. It's like that, the big terminology is cognitive dissonance, right? When like you hear something that doesn't make sense to you quite yet, and you're like, this is awkward and uncomfortable. Feel free to keep sharing your 1 degree shifts in the chat box. I love to see what you're gonna do differently, what you're gonna apply, and any takeaways from today's class. So maybe your biggest, like, what was the biggest takeaway or biggest insight that you got, which is a similar question to your 1 degree shift. The 1 degree shift, my hope is that it's more applicable. It's more something that you would actually take action on, walking away and integrating into the trainings and events that you are all leading. So feel free in the chat box as I'm wrapping up our session for today. Feel free to share your biggest takeaway. Yeah, the illusion of connection, right? It's like we think that we're really connected. We have all these friends on Facebook, but like how connected do we really feel? And I think a lot of people feel really alone and really isolated. If you don't remember anything else, so yeah, feel free to type your biggest takeaways as I wrap things up. Biggest takeaways or your 1 degree shifts, because I love hearing that. And if you want to post your 1 degree shifts in the Facebook group, I would love for y'all to do that. I wonder if I can find our Facebook group. So I created a Facebook group for transformational facilitators, for us to continue to stay connected to each other outside of these classes, to share resources, and for you to support each other. If you would like to, put what your 1 degree shift is. And so I'm going to put the link for you to join the group right in here, right here, right now. Boom. Okay. So that's the link to the Facebook group. I love it. So Angie asked a question for Q&A time. Well, we're almost to Q&A time, so I'm gonna answer that in just a moment. So we asked our 1 degree shift, and I always like to say, just remember this: you are awesome. So don't forget that as a facilitator, the work that you do matters. It is important. It's important to me. It's important to your people that you serve. And like I said, I am really committed to being of service to all of you. And so the next, oh yeah, so I really would love to support, I am looking to work with 5 facilitators one-on-one to help you take your facilitation to the next level. So really looking at all of these things that we mentioned today and helping you elevate and enhance your facilitation skills. I'm working with some people right now. My friend Michael Naus, he facilitates. I'm like trying to do so many things. I'm just gonna post the link. So, and then I'm gonna talk. So here is a facilitation breakthrough coaching session with me. There is the link to sign up for that. I'm looking to connect with 8 folks who are really ready to be like, okay, I am committed to being the best possible facilitator I can be. And part of this is what I'm realizing is facilitators don't have a lot of people that they can talk to about their programs and workshops and ideas, whether you are wanting to elevate and enhance the programs you're already leading, or if you're wanting to create trainings and programs and being able to create them really intentionally and really powerfully. So one level of this is enhancement and elevation and up-leveling the programs that you're already doing. And one other way is to create programs that you want to facilitate and getting to work with someone to be able to do that. So if you are interested in connecting with me one-on-one, I would absolutely love to support you on your facilitation journey. I geek out about this stuff. I love it. I want to support you being the most amazing human and facilitator possible. So hop on there, grab a link. First 8 people to sign up is awesome. And then, like I said, the next masterclass is specifically on creating and holding a brave space for transformation. I'm just looking around all of the places and trying to find the link. No, I don't want this. Go away. Finding the link. Here we go. So here is the next masterclass. Masterclasses are always free from me to you. Boom. And like I said, I'm also working on doing a facilitation retreat, a transformational facilitation retreat. I'm looking potentially at the first weekend in October that may happen, October 4th through 7th. That's the dates that I'm playing with. And I'm also working on, I'm working on so many facilitation things. I'm so freaking excited about this stuff. I'm working on a book, like a guidebook, to really explain all of this stuff in way more depth, and possibly like a 9-month-long training program course mastery that includes retreats and live trainings and weekly classes and all sorts of like epic awesomeness. So as I'm putting all of that stuff together, I would love your support, love your feedback. How you get notified about future masterclasses is I have a list. If you've signed up for this masterclass through Eventbrite, I just add you to my facilitation list, and I make sure that you all find out about that way. Also, I would join the Facebook group as well to stay connected to there. I post all of the events in the Transformational Facilitators Facebook group. And I am going to stick around and answer any questions that y'all might have. 1 o'clock, boom, we did it. Holy cow. Give yourself a big self high five. Boom. Tell yourself that you're awesome. Thank you so much for showing up. Thanks so much for being here. If you want to share your 1 degree shift with me or in the chat box or in the Facebook group, let me know if there's anything that I can do to support you elevating, up-leveling, and enhancing your ability to facilitate transformation for your people, your communities, and the world. So with that, I'm going to stop our share, stop the recording here. And then I'm super happy to stick around and answer any questions that folks might have.